So another part of culture that I want to underline is we should always strive to create a safe place to work, right? Even if you're the guy in the restaurant that always yells at their staff and and so on and so forth, that's your culture. If someone doesn't tolerate you, you tell them, if you don't like the way I treat people, you're free to leave and we can hire someone else. However, this is who I am, this is how I work. I don't have time to explain to you nicely that you've overcooked the potatoes. They were burnt, they were charcoal, right? I could see black on them. They should have been crispy brown, not black, right? And I don't have time to explain it nicely. I just tell you that you screwed up, do it again, do it fast because they need their order right now, right? And that's who I am. I don't have time to be pleasant because that takes extra effort. And when we have 100 people wanting a meal at the exact same time, I am just stressed and this is how I am. That's it. And then people understand. This is how you are. And I shouldn't expect you to be polite or whatever else. This is how you are. If I tolerate that, I'm fine. And at one point in these companies, within these environments, the yelling and the all of these things, they start to become invisible. And people will not notice the yelling, they'll just take the feedback. Hey, did you check this? Did you do that? The potatoes are burned, this and whatever, right? And they'll just literally take the feedback and run, because that's the culture they enjoy, right? And there are literally people that like that. So we are not here to judge people. There's an amazing bumper sticker that people have in the US. I've seen, I think, a picture of it. It's a very cool quote. I hope I don't paraphrase it too much. It says, "Do not judge me because I sin differently than you," right? So don't judge me for being a smoker when you drink alcohol, right? Don't judge me for yelling at my staff when you lie to your children, or whatever it is. So all of us sin to a certain extent and to certain parts of our life. So don't judge me because I sin differently. So we shouldn't judge a restaurant owner and their staff because they're yelling at one another and they're screaming and they're whatever, because those same guys finish their work at 10 p.m. or whatever, and then don't go home until 12 because they spend another 2 hours together drinking beers, having fun, shooting darts, playing pool, and so on and so forth, because they're actually a very good team and they love one another. They feel that that is a safe place for them. So I give this example because it's the exact opposite of what most people would consider a safe place, right? So I'm not here to judge you, or you shouldn't be here to judge anyone else for what a safe place means for them, right? In our case, a safe place means that people are listened to, right? No one's yelling at one another, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to give a final example for all of you, people out there that maybe are still judging others. If your company, and again, I'm not in the industry or I'm not part of it or anything, but if your company, for example, does adult filming, maybe sexual comments or something on a not day-to-day basis, but an hour-to-hour, minute-to-minute basis, because that's literally the industry in which they operate. Everyone in the room is super hot. Everyone in the room is about to get naked. Everyone is about to film themselves doing it, and so on and so forth. So what's a safe place for us in our company might be completely different from the adult industry. Same, it might be completely different from the casino industry. Casinos have to have a lot of big bulky guys, that can tackle a dude immediately if they're, doing some trouble. My team would feel intimidated if one of those guys would just be sitting around watching everyone, making sure no one says something bad. For a casino, that is the definition of a safe place, because you want to feel safe in case someone swindles you, or if something happens, you can yell and the guards will be there to make sure that this guy that's drunk is going to be taken care of, basically escorted out of the building. That's basically it. The only action item here is to talk to people, or to add this to either PDPs or to add this to surveys, and to ask, hey, do you feel this is a safe place? And if yes or no, what do you think we could do differently to make it better? And you can define the safe place however it resonates with you, and ask if you agree with that definition, or if you want to do something else. Something that Aaron and I really love. I was doing these things even before meeting Aaron. However, Aaron defined it as one of the things that are crucial for a business's culture. I was doing them just because we felt all of us were talking to one another. We were having PDPs, we were having a lot of meetings, and we just felt to like doing these things. And what I'm talking about are traditions. So there's a great quote, I can't remember from what book, but it says that culture in your company exists regardless whether you want it or not. The only difference is that good leaders build culture consciously and bad leaders let culture just happen, right? And so if you want to build a culture that you're proud of and everyone on the team can be proud of, you should probably do that consciously and not just let it happen. This goes very well with the topic of traditions. So what are traditions? Traditions are things that everyone or most of the people in the company enjoy doing on a regular basis. For example, something we do in Westrom is in winter, when Christmas is about, the vast majority of the people in Westrom are Christian. So we celebrate Christmas. We have a lot of people that don't celebrate Christmas. They have different religions and we respect them just the same. And we have different traditions for them, right? Like for example, Muslims have Eid, which is like their version of the New Year. And so in Eid, in Arabic means festival. So it's like the festival of the New Year. And so during that time, we give them praise, we say, have a blessed Eid and so on and so forth. So this is sort of a tradition that we have. In Christmas, something that we do is we have someone in the company that has a nonprofit that gathers donations and gathers toys and whatever, and they go into underprivileged towns around our main city, and they basically donate clothing or books or pens or games or anything that they get as donations or they use money for. For example, this last year the donations were in the form of tablets because they don't have technology. They have internet that they use on their phones, but they can't really do homework at home or anything like that has to do with digital, because it's very hard to do that on your phone. And so they figured out that if they would, because buying everyone laptops would have been too expensive, but tablets that have all of the functions of a laptop, they're just a little bit cheaper and easier to maneuver. They can write their homework on very easily, right? Because you can, still touch type on them, and then they can read their homework at the school very easily, right? So that's something we've done, and that helps those children have a better chance in the future because in their careers, because the vast majority of careers are digital nowadays. You always use a computer. And imagine these people are going into high school and they've never seen a computer. I mean, they've seen it maybe a few times at school, but they don't have one at home because they can't afford it. So we thought that's an amazing initiative, and we helped as much as we can, and every year we try to help. So that's one of the traditions we do. In Aaron's case, they also have something similar to that. They do it for Thanksgiving. However, something else that they do, for example, is, if I remember correctly, once a week or once a month, they have something like pizza nights, or pizza days, where on that day, everyone can say what flavor of pizza they want. And then basically the one person in the company goes out, buys pizzas, and then shares them amongst everyone, and then everyone they don't bring lunch that day because they know they're going to eat pizza. And so that's just something, because that's something they do. If you have a remote team, you can still do the same thing because there are options of getting pizzas remotely, right? Like there are these food delivery services like DoorDash and so on. And so you can order pizzas for everyone, no matter where they are on the planet. And, everyone at 2 p.m. one time, like one time zone, they jump on and, everyone's eating pizza, everyone's just chilling. If that's a tradition you want to implement, right? So the point of this example is that you can find ways to add any forms of any traditions you want, whether you're local, whether you're remote, right? For example, in our case, we don't see those children. We don't see the tablets. We don't see anything. All of the donations and all of the, let's say, efforts that we do are all remote. Just that one person with their NGO does everything locally. Everyone else is remote, and we just try to help as best as we can, right? Every year is different. Every year we can donate different amounts, but the tradition stays the same. Every year for Christmas, we do something to help those less fortunate, have a better Christmas and, have a better life moving forward. So what are some of the traditions you guys would like to implement in your business, right? In your team? Think about that. That's your action step. Or maybe you already have some traditions, but they're not formalized. If that's the case, then formalize those traditions. Like make it so that, hey, every Thursday evening is game night. Every, first of the month we have pizza day. Whatever it is, right? You can formalize those traditions, and then people will love that as part of the culture. But again, involve people. Just come up with traditions and then make people do them, because they might not enjoy them. The next point that I want to mention is with regards to principle. So many people, when they go into this habit of, hey, I want to define all of the systems and procedures and processes within my company, everything. I want to define everything to the very last letter, to the very last point. That's cool in terms of guidance and training and making sure the level of quality of everything is the same, right? Or specific deliverables is the same, and so on. However, when it comes to culture, in most cases, we shouldn't have rules, but we should have principles. For example, you can have a sort of like a rule of, we don't say this word and this word and this word and this word and this word, or you can have a principle of, in this company we don't swear, right? It's a principle. And so if someone comes and says, okay, but what about this situation? And you say, the principle is very clear. In this company we do not swear, full stop. There are no exceptions to that principle. It's a principle that we have. And so you don't need to define every single detail about your principles. You just define basically the attitude you want people to have towards certain things. For example, an even better example, delivering exceptional service to clients. You can have rules to say that once someone does this, you need to do this. Once or after you've done this, you need to do this. Like very clear rules of exactly this, exactly every single time the same way. Or you can have those, like the bare minimum of those that you need. And then you can also have principles of, if you feel a client isn't satisfied, even though you've done everything we've said, the principle is to find out why they're dissatisfied and what you could potentially do about it. Because you can find out that the best of rules and the best of expectations set still don't account for 100% of situations. They might account for 95% of situations. But what of the 5% of situations when that's not the case? So in those 5 situations, that's where principles shine. Because if you tell people, look, the main goal that you have to achieve is that people need to feel amazing when they work with us or when they use our products. They need to feel amazing, right? Anything you can do to have that happen in a, obviously ethical manner and, within budget, you should do. And so that's a principle. You don't need to explain all of them. You can give them ideas, right? And we do, for example, for the don't swear, we do, when we teach it, we say it doesn't matter what the client says, it doesn't matter how angry you are, it doesn't matter what day you're having, you cannot swear. And if you do swear, someone will typically tell you, hey, that's not tolerated here, stop doing it, right? And so basically, if you focus on principles, even when you create the digger acts, the job descriptions, you don't need to say that you need to post every single day at this time, these many times, these many letters, and so on. No, have principles. Say you should post as many times as required to engage enough people so that we get these many leads per week. So now, because the person has the principle, they can thrive within that culture, because whether they post on Tuesday or Wednesday or Friday, or whether they post at 10 a.m. or 5 p.m., it doesn't matter. What matters is the end result. You just, as a principle, said you should post on Facebook. As a principle, you say you should email our clients at least once a month. Whether you do it on the 7th of the month or the 5th or the 15th, doesn't matter. Email every client, have a conversation with every client at least once a month, right? Maybe you have a vacation 2 weeks that month. What should you do? You can't reach out to them. If you have a strict rule that every client gets reached out to on the 5th, you can't reach out to them on the 5th because you're on vacation. But because you have a principle in your company, not a rule, then, or for your role, then that culture becomes something that you can grow into and you enjoy so much more, because now people are treating you like an adult. You're like, hey, I understood the principle. I'm going to do the best I can with the resources that I have, and no one needs to micromanage me. And as long as I hit my targets, I will be given freedom. And people tend to love that.